In the early hours of August 8, 1963, a Royal Mail train left Glasgow, Scotland, bound for London. It was a routine journey carrying letters, parcels, and, most importantly, millions of pounds in banknotes. But it never reached its destination. Just after 3 a.m., the train was stopped in the middle of the countryside. Within minutes, a gang of masked men overpowered the crew and stole what would today equal more than $70 million. It was a robbery so bold, so carefully planned, that it became one of the most famous crimes in British history, the Great Train Robbery. Welcome to our Whisper of True Guilt, where we bring you gripping stories from the world of crime, history, and mystery. In today's video, we'll be looking into the Great Train Robbery of 1963, a daring heist that shocked Britain, captured worldwide attention, and made its perpetrators legends of the underworld. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another thrilling crime story. Now, let's dive in. Britain in the 1960s. The early 1960s was a time of change in Britain. The post-war economy was improving, and money was moving rapidly through the country's banking system. The Royal Mail train was one of the safest ways to transport large amounts of cash between banks and London. But for a gang of criminals, that train wasn't just a delivery, it was an opportunity. Led by Bruce Reynolds, a career thief with connections across London's underworld, the gang began planning a heist unlike anything Britain had ever seen. The train, officially known as the Glasgow to London Royal Mail train, usually carried about 300,000 pounds. But on this particular night, following a bank holiday weekend, it was loaded with far more, over 2.6 million pounds in used banknotes, worth about $70 million today. The gang had inside information. They learned the exact schedule, the guards' routines, and even the location where they could stop the train without drawing attention. The plan was set. At 3 a.m., as the train approached the small village of Ledburn in Buckinghamshire, the robbers executed their plan. Using a false railway signal, they forced the train to stop. When the driver, Jack Mills, stepped down to investigate, he was struck and subdued. The gang quickly boarded the train and uncoupled the car carrying the money. Working in near silence, they loaded 120 sacks of banknotes into waiting vehicles. The entire operation took just 30 minutes. By the time police arrived, the gang had vanished into the night with their fortune. The robbers retreated to Leatherslade Farm, a remote hideout where they divided the money. For a short time, it seemed like the perfect crime. Newspapers across Britain carried headlines about the daring thieves who had pulled off the heist of the century. But mistakes would cost them. Instead of leaving the farm immediately, the gang stayed for several days. Their fingerprints were later found all over the property. The scale of the robbery shocked the British public and embarrassed the government. A massive police manhunt began. Within weeks, many of the robbers were identified and arrested. Bruce Reynolds managed to escape capture for several years, living under false identities in Mexico and Canada before being arrested in 1968. Others weren't so lucky. In 1964, a group of 12 robbers stood trial in what became known as the Trial of the Century. The court came down hard. Most of the men received 30-year prison sentences, some of the harshest ever given for robbery in Britain. But even prison couldn't contain the legend of the Great Train Robbers. In 1965, two of them, including Ronnie Biggs, staged dramatic escapes. Biggs fled to Brazil, where he lived as a fugitive for decades, becoming a folk hero in the process. The Great Train Robbery wasn't just a theft, it was a cultural moment. The sheer scale, the planning, and the audacity captured the public's imagination. Books, films, and documentaries turned the robbers into household names. Some saw them as criminals. Others, as outlaws who had outsmarted the system. But behind the legend were real consequences. Jack Mills, the train driver, never fully recovered from his injuries and died just a few years later. Many of the robbers spent decades behind bars. And while some of the money was recovered, much of it was never found, disappearing into history along with the myth of the robbery itself. The Great Train Robbery of 1963 remains one of the boldest crimes in British history. It was a heist that seemed unstoppable, yet it showed how greed, mistakes, and betrayal can bring even the most daring plans crashing down. Do you think the robbers deserved their harsh sentences, or were they punished more for embarrassing the system than for the crime itself? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping tales of crime and history. Until next time, stay sharp, because the past is full of stories that refuse to be forgotten.